What's up, guys? Phoenix here. I have not produced any content for my channel in quite some time, and I hope you guys will be understanding with me on this, but believe it or not, that was not my intention. I've had plenty of motivation and will to make videos, and as the old saying goes, where there's a will, there is a way. Unfortunately, what that saying doesn't really touch on is that even if there is a way, there may not be time. And that's kind of the situation I've been in over the past 5 to 6 months. I've been dealing with a lot of issues, mainly financial, that have been causing me to have very little time for anything other than just straightforward, just like, oh, I'm testing for an event, or oh, I'm doing this now, or I'm doing that. I've been job searching for the past 5 months at least. I've lost track. It's been about 5 or 6 months. And hopefully that'll be coming to an end soon. I have some very promising prospects in that area, which hopefully you guys will be pleased to hear, because that means that I can hopefully start focusing on this a bit more, which ideally is kind of a job, but I just haven't had time. Any time I could devote to Yu-Gi-Oh! Was going to be testing for the events I was going to. And I did go to a lot of events. I went to YCS Chicago, I went to the 150th YCS, I went to Nationals, tested for all these events, did decently well at all of them, just didn't end up topping. I just can't seem to grasp one of those, but that's fine, I guess. I ended up winning a regional sometime around the 150th time frame. It was either the week before or the week after. I can't really remember. Came in first at that regional, went 8-0, and I wanted to do content for that, but I just didn't have the time to do it, unfortunately. But hopefully that is all going to be coming to an end. I've got quite a few videos already lined up that I want to film and make and produce and get up on my channel, so there should be at least, between 6 to 10 videos that I will be putting up. I don't want to talk any further on the matter in this video, simply because I want to get into what the meat of this video is supposed to be about. I'll probably do a separate video just in case you guys are interested. You can watch it and figure out what's been going on in my life, sort of in a detailed setting. But for today's video, now that that mouthful is out of the way, as you can see, my cherished Vajrayana on Dragon Ravine map is currently on the screen, and that is very good for all of us, because that means you are going to be getting what everyone who has any form of contact with me has ever wanted, which is an updated Dragonity deck profile for the new format. Every single person that had any form of way to contact me, whether it was YouTube comments, YouTube inbox, my Facebook fan page messages, the people that are able to message me on my actual Facebook and friends with me there, the people that message me on DN, I may have already said YouTube comments, but those too, every single method of media that people had to get in touch with me was used to ask me since April 1st whether or not I had an updated Dragonity deck profile for the new list. Because people know I've been playing Necros and stuff like that, but yes, I do still love this deck. I still love playing it. The combos are really fun to perform. They're always, tweakable. The deck always has room for innovation and to evolve. And yes, in short, I have had a list for quite some time. The only real difference between this list and the one from the April format is that Ravine is at 2 now, which I don't know why it's not at 3, but it's at least at 2, which means the percentages for opening good hands and playable hands is up, as well as we don't have to run pseudo space anymore because we have 2 Ravine and 3 terraforming, whereas before we had 1 Ravine and 3 terraforming, which you wanted to run, but you had to run pseudo space to kind of act as the second Ravine, but that's no longer the case. Anyway, this video is already getting into the 4-minute mark, and I'm going to have to put a disclaimer on this, that this is going to be a rather long video, which even though I don't want them to be, because there's going to be a lot of explanation in this video, because a lot has changed with this deck, and there's a brand new combo that I've invented that I've known about for well over a year, but I just never did a video about because there was never a need for it, because Ravine was obviously banned. I came up with that combo back in Dragon Ruler format after Felgrand came out, because the combo makes Felgrand. So there's ultimately just a lot of new things to talk about and discuss. At the suggestion of a few subscribers and one of my friends, I'm going to, if you don't want the video with explanation, I suggest you listen to the explanation because it's all very relevant. But I'm going to be doing another video of this deck profile. It's going to be 2 or 3 minutes. It's going to be literally just the deck profile, no explanation whatsoever, and that will be going up in the next day or two. This video is going to be covering all the explanations of the cards and card choices and why they're here. But anyway, I do not want this video to get over the 15-minute mark if possible, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the deck. Your obligatory 3 ducks. This is the only thing I don't like about the deck, is the fact that your plays to get out of the early game are all heavily reliant on ducks, and they're all like jump started by ducks. Accessing ducks is getting easier and easier as every format progresses and all the card choices come out. All the new cards that we have access to are given to us, but still, like, I wish we had another card that did what ducks did that was also a level 4 wing beast. Militum isn't enough because he doesn't equip. I wish we had another Dragunity name that could equip when it's summoned that was a level 4. Like, Legionnaire is fine, but he's not a 4. Militum is the other piece of the puzzle we're missing, but he doesn't equip anything. Of course, you can use Lance, but that's just another, like, inconsistent combo piece. Like, honestly, I kind of wish this deck would get some Dragunity-themed Pendulum monsters. That'd be really cool. That would solve a lot of the problems this deck has. But anyway, 3 ducks. 1 copy of Zephyros, because you don't need more than 1 at this point, because Instant Fusion and all the other combo pieces exist. Only 1 Garuda. I want to bump this to 2, but I can't really find room at the moment, and like the extra deck is really strained because this deck is very heavily oriented towards beating Necros, and you'll see why. You'll see why either in this video or in the combo video that I'm going to do that will be up tomorrow. It will be up the day after this video goes up. It'll be up in conjunction with the shorter length deck profile. 1 copy of Harpy's Harpist. I wish this card could search Garuda or Zephyros, but it can only search ducks, so that's the only reason we're playing 1. It's something that you can just do mid-combo to add off Gator and discard it, or you can like foolish it and add ducks in the end phase, even if that's like really slow. Sometimes that'll get you there. It decreases the deck's overall reliance on Dragon Ravine and just gives you another method of plussing, which is what the deck has really lacked in the past. This deck has kind of been really hard to just get staple +1s and all that. You used to do that you used to get your pluses by 1-for-1ing your way into a Stardust, and then Stardust itself would get you the pluses by interacting with your opponent's cards. Now you kind of have to get the pluses yourself, and this card helps with that. The only Dragon Tuners I'm running are Phalanxes. I'm not playing Legionnaire, as you saw, and I'm not playing Ackley's in the main. The main purpose of this deck is to try and keep up with Necros, keep up with Burning Abyss, and not just get blown out by Klee. And Legionnaire and Ackley's do nothing in all of those matchups. They're just very slow, non-combo cards that they're just better off in the side deck for if you play against anything that's like Rogue and like overall just operates at a slower pace that you need, backer and monster destruction and removal against. That's where those cards are. They're not in the main deck. They're not really main deck worthy in this format. 2 copies of Mistleton, and 1 copy of an old blast from the past, Dragunity Arma Leviathan. This is, I kind of wish we didn't have to run this, but you have to run it for the combo that lets you basically just run over Necros. You can get away with not running this, but you're going to have to dedicate a lot more of a resource pool into your Necros matchup in terms of what you're committing into your board. But this just kind of solves a lot of the problems, and it's also not bad late game. Like if your board gets broken against like certain decks, being able to like summon a guy and remove it and summon this is actually like a lot of pressure if this keeps coming back. Like 26 is huge, like in this format against certain decks. Like BA has a problem getting anything off the board that's bigger than 25 because it forces them to go into Acid Golem, or it makes them Virgil it away, or they have to Fire Lake it. Now, they're not going to be able to Fire Lake if Stardust is on the board, and, like, they're not going to be able, if you are smart, you can keep them from Virgiling. Like, it all depends on the situation, but, like, this recurring, and, like, its secondary effect is actually really neat. So, like, it's actually worth it in my eyes. I just don't like the strain that it puts on my extra deck. Then the last dragon is the obvious Red Eyes Darkness Metal. Then the last 2 monsters are 2 Maxis. You kind of need this to compete against Burning Abyss and Necros. You don't need to see it, but you just kind of need it. It's like the only relevant like trap that you can play against those decks that will cause you to like maintain momentum in the game. Like you always want more cards because the more cards you can get in your hand, the more combo pieces you potentially have, and the more combo pieces you have, the higher your output ceiling is on the next turn, causing you to just outright kill them if you have the right combination of cards. And also, if you can't put up like a huge combo, you can always still just like, hand traps are always really crucial in this deck, in my opinion now, just because we have Ptolemy access. Meaning, like, if you don't have any traps that you can function with, you can always just keep putting, like, your hand traps back in your hand off Ptolemy. That was something that was really important back in Dragon Rule format, and I think it's just as important now. But that's 15 monsters. As for the spells, the 2 Dragon Ravines, like I said, I don't know why this card's at 2 and not 3. I think they're just trying to be very safe with it. It should be at 3 on the very next list that they put out. But, like, ultimately it's going to help the percentages of this deck a lot. So you're going to play 2 Ravine and 3 Terraforming. This is essentially the same as like 2 Scout, 3 Summoners art. So in theory, if you ever play Cliff for it, you should see this card just as much as you ever saw Scout. And it does function like the same purpose for the deck, in getting you to all your like pieces of your combo puzzle nonsense. But the problem I have with this deck are strictly with the percentages. The draw 5 rule that changed actually hurt this deck a lot more than Ravine being at less than 3 ever could. But I'll explain that another time. But it's a personal thing with me that not a lot of people actually pick up on. But the percentages were severely hurt by that because you want to go first with the deck, and like you have a lesser chance of seeing Ravine, even with it at 3. But anyway, since I'm only playing 3 Phalanxes, the tuners, I'm playing only 2 copy of Divine Lance, even though this card is amazing. I wish we always had this card. I wish this card had come out in 2011. The entire deck's lifespan would have been completely different. But like this card further enforces like Leviathan plays because you can always just like bring back a Vajrayana off of Red Med, and then equip this to it, and then banish that for Leviathan, just to get like further damage and further pushes him. Like that's actually a very relevant thing that comes up quite often. And the fact that it boosts like this by itself, if you have a Dux in this in your hand, you can equip this to Dux, and if you already had a Phalanx in your graveyard, the Dux will equip that as well. But it makes the Dux either 25 or 2700, depending on if you had a Phalanx in your grave. And like that's big enough to run over Winda, which is one of the deck's biggest issues, is dealing with Winda. So that's like actually very relevant. 2 Cards of Consonance and triple Upstart Goblin are here for draw engine and draw power. You need this card now. This card is mandatory. This card boosts your percentage of seeing Dragon Ravine by a full like 3 to 4%, and considering that even with 5 Dragon Ravine, even with upstarts in your deck going first, you're only going to see it 53% of your games. That is literally only half of the games you will ever play. Now that doesn't take into account any of the other combo, combinations you have in terms of combo cards like Instant Fusion, having Cards of Consonance Phalanx, having Dux of this and a Mistleton. Like, it doesn't take into account any of those things, other factors. But still, that's literally a coin flip. You are going to sit down at your table and you're going to flip a coin and say, okay, I have a 50%. I have a little bit over a 50% chance of seeing Dragon Ravine, and like you ideally want that number to be closer to like 60 to 65%, because at least that's enough to be 2 out of 3 games, which is enough to win a match if all things go well. Like there's actually just a lot of extra strain that's put on combo cards not involving Ravine in the deck now. Mainly because of that draw rule that changed, because the getting that 6 card literally boosts like all the percentages by like 10% of like getting to Ravine first turn. Whereas like now you actually have to like draw into as many combo pieces as possible. So Upstart is definitely mandatory in this deck now, I would say, and Reckless might also be a good addition. But anyway, continuing on, the rest of my spells are literally all combo cards, except for 1. 2 copies of Instant Fusion. I'm only extracting 1 Maveless because the extra deck is really tight. 1 copy of Soul Charge. I wish that Dragon Ravine and Soul Charge both existed at 3 in at least one format. Like, this deck would have been insane. Foolish Burial, and then Raigeki. And like, they round out the spells. There's no MST in the main deck, because of the fact that, like, you're going to be going first and you're only going to be having 5 cards. You don't want to risk having watered down cards that don't serve any purpose, because you want to be comboing off. Like, if you're not comboing off turn 1 when you have a completely free reign to do so, outside of Valor and Maxx C, like, you're probably going to be struggling for the rest of that game, and that's ideally why. I'm not playing Jar of Avarice because it didn't really do very much, even though I was really like hyped for it to come out. I am playing 2 Call the Haunted though, because once you combo off, you can Call the Haunted your Red Eyes, or even if you haven't comboed off yet, this becomes a combo piece. Like, if they try to stop your plays, you can Call the Haunted the Tuner. You can Call the Haunted like anything, any piece of the puzzle you're missing, and then go further in. Playing 2 Mind Crush in the main, and this is actually supportable now by the fact that you have Harpist, because before you'd have to like keep one of your traps in your hand or anything, but now if you have a combo plus Mind Crush, you can always get a Harpist in the grave off of 90% of the combos that you perform off of Gaydard, and that'll add Dux to your hand in the in phase menu. You can set all your traps, have no cards in hand. In phase, you'll search Dux, and then the Mind Crush will be live. which is something that's very relevant, for playing against Necros. Ideally, you want to keep Unicorn off the board with this deck, and that's what you'll notice. Like all the traps really facilitate is some sort of interaction to keeping Unicorn off the board. Because if Unicorn's off the board and you've comboed off, you have like Felgrand on the board, which means you're not going to get Trish because you'll negate that, or you can negate like the Breen Act or something like that. Because those are like the biggest detriments to this deck. Like I said, it's very heavily catered towards playing against Necros. But 2 copies of Phoenix Chain are also in the trap lineup. I was doing Breakthrough Skill, but like you actually want to stop them from attacking you because they can put big things up like Valk, Decisive Armor, or Trish, and those are bigger than a lot of the things that you can have out, except for like of course Red Eyes and Felgrand. Those are obviously higher than the ceiling of Trishula, but Valk and Decisive Armor are still bigger, and plus Decisive Armor can just boost anything, so that's kind of something you want to stop. Even though Breakthrough Skill had a little bit more utility in the terms of like you can just negate a Unicorn, you can negate a Winda from Grave, this still just was a bit better overall in terms of like it lets you keep your monsters alive, and that's actually just real. And the last 2 traps are one Warning and one Emptiness. Warning is the only card that's kind of bad against Necros and Burning Abyss, but I kind of wanted it as my catch-all card against like Cleese and Rogue and like Shaddoll Fusion and stuff like that. Because like I didn't want Bottomless in here. I definitely did not. Like Bottomless was kind of not kind of. It was very just kind of in testing. I really don't want to run this either. But like you can set up soft locks with Spark Dragon and Emptiness, and things of that. Like a lot of decks struggle to get over big monsters outside of like Klee. Necros even still struggles to get over big monsters usually, as long as like they're in the range of 2800. Plus, that means they have to get over it with Valk, and if you have something that you can deal with Valk then like they usually just can't get a good enough foothold in the game. But anyway, moving on to the extra deck, because I'm running Leviathan again, we get to support Trident Dragon, and this is very it's not what I would call necessary by any means, but the combo that I'm going to be showing you in the other video, it ends your first turn field with an Atum, a Red Eyes at 2800, and a Felgrand. With 2 materials on it. And now, easily the next thing that you can go into from there is Trident Dragon on your very next turn. And you will have dead cards that you can pop with this. And a lot of people have forgotten the way that Trident Dragon works is that his attack gains are not a continuous effect. They are a condition recognized by the game state. If you pop 2 cards with Trident Dragon when he's summoned, and he gains his 2 additional attacks, if his effect is later negated, he still has those attacks because it is a game state recognized condition. The game state recognizes that those 2 cards were still destroyed, or that 1 card if you only wanted to gain 1 additional attack. What this means is, when you're playing against Necros, you can have a Felgrand up, and you can then make this. Pop 2 cards, and go to swing, and then when they try to Valk this, you can still Felgrand this. It'll be unaffected by the Valkyrs, and it'll still maintain its 2 other attacks. Very rarely does that ever decide the game, but just the fact that it's a huge body that can do an additional 3 attacks is very relevant against Burning Abyss as well, because you can run them through their floater blockers and then start hitting, for damage with your other big guys that are out, because usually when you'll put this out, you'll still have at least 2, if not 3, other guys out that are 2500 or bigger. So that's why it's in here. It's in here more for Burning Abyss than it is for Necros, but it's still just like steals games out of nowhere. Especially against Klee too, because like damage is your win condition against that deck, and this just, oh boy, this puts a lot of damage. There's only 4 level 8s in the deck now: Crimson Blader, Scrap Dragon, and 1 of each Stardust. Thought Ruler got cut because he was honestly like the least useful. If Burning Abyss becomes any more popular than it is, Crimson Blader will probably get swapped for Thought Ruler, just because Thought Ruler is amazing against that deck because of their traps, and they can't really get over it otherwise, outside of Acid Golem. So other than that, like this is only really relevant against Necros, but most of the time you're actually just trying to end the game. You're never really trying to lock them down. So this might get swapped for Thought Ruler. I'm not 100% sure yet. The obligatory Triple Vajrayana and Gayderg, and then the 1 copy of Mavelus to be the instant fusion target. That is it for the non-Xyz part of the extra deck. The Xyz part of the extra deck is really small. It has to be, this extra deck is, like I said, again, really tight. 1 Felgrand for the combo that I told you, that I've been mentioning. Like, this card is just amazing when you can summon it against Burning Abyss or Necros. It's not that good against Klee, but it's still something that, like, I would go into it more times than I would not. It makes a lot of the combos really cookie cutter, too. It just gives you a big safety net. 1 copy of Ptolemy, and then 2 copies of Atum. You kind of have to have the second copy for that combo, because you run through 2 copies, but you can honestly cut one and put anything else in here, but you'd also have to cut Leviathan from the main deck, or just be content with not summoning Leviathan and not going into Felgrand until your next turn. That's completely up to you, but personally, like, I want these, especially because, like, people like to bottomless this. People are getting smart, and they're waiting until, like, because Lance exists now, like, they're just waiting and, like, hitting this when it comes out. So if you're ever able to establish a second Atum, like, then you can, like, the second one becomes relevant at that point in time. It's very few and far between that happens, but it does happen. And holy crap, guys, this is a 20-minute long video. But as I said, there's going to be another video going up tomorrow that is going to be a short, just no explanation, straight through the deck profile. If you guys want a quick look at it there, you can go see it there. This video was strictly for explanation purposes, and then there's also going to be the other video, teaching you how to do the new combo that I know how to do. I showed everyone that came to find me at Nationals and the 150th. I showed this combo to them, and they were just amazed, because it was something that they didn't really think that they could do, making rank 8s and Dragunitys on a consistent basis. It's a very easy combo to do. It's very easy to get started. But anyway, as always, guys, comment, rate, subscribe. If you would like to get in touch with me, the easiest way to do so is going to be through either my Facebook fan page or go to my Facebook, my actual personal Facebook, and send me a friend request. I will have the links to both in the description. The Facebook fan page is mostly what I talk with people about Yu-Gi-Oh! On. There are a few people that I talk Yu-Gi-Oh! With on my personal Facebook, but it's very limited in, like, when I can, like, do things, and also it's just a bigger discussion if, like, other people can put their input in if you do things on my personal, on my Facebook fan page. And also, like, if I ever decide to do any, like, streaming in the future, if I ever decide to, like, play on DN with people for games, which I've definitely thought about doing, that will be something that I will announce through the fan page rather than my own personal Facebook. So it would, honestly, just go to both, like the fan page, and also send me a friend request. Just do both. It's going to be the best for you. But anyway, as I said, comment, rate, subscribe. I hate to say this, but if you could click an ad if you have not, I'd greatly appreciate it. My financial situation is obviously still pretty shit. And this is just any little form of income that it can be would be well appreciated. You don't have to. Obviously, I would understand because I haven't done content in a while, but I'm going to be picking up on that because I finally received some time to at least do this. But anyway, that's all for today's video. I will have some other videos going out starting tomorrow, and as always, guys, take care.